There are moments in life when your heart feels tired, not because you did too much, but because you cared too much. You stayed quiet when you wanted to speak. You walked away when your heart wanted justice. And deep inside you wondered, does Allah see what I am carrying? My dear brothers and sisters, Allah sees every silent tear. He sees the battles you fight within your heart, the patience you show when your nafs wants to react, and the strength it takes to remain dignified when you are misunderstood. Silence in those moments is not weakness. It is trust in Allah. We live in a world that teaches us to respond to everything, to defend ourselves, to prove our worth with words. But Allah invites us to something higher. He invites us to calm, to restraint, and to reliance upon Him. Sometimes the greatest act of worship is holding your tongue when your heart is burning. There are times when Allah removes people from your life, not as punishment, but as protection. Times when He allows you to be misunderstood so that your heart detaches from people and reconnects with Him. Because the heart that seeks approval from others will always feel restless. But the heart that seeks Allah will always find peace. Ask yourself quietly, who are you trying to please? People who change, or Allah who never changes? Who are you explaining yourself to when Allah already knows your intention? The Prophet taught us that true strength is not in overpowering others, but in controlling yourself when you are angry. And sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. If your heart feels heavy today, maybe this is Allah calling you back to silence filled with dhikr, back to nights where you speak only to Him, back to a place where your worth is not questioned, because it was never in people's hands to begin with. And if you stay with me, I want to remind you of something your heart may have forgotten. Allah has never missed a single moment of your patience. There are moments when Allah places you in situations where your heart is burning with words, yet your tongue is held back. Moments when silence feels heavy, uncomfortable, even painful. And you ask yourself, why am I the one staying quiet when I am being misunderstood? My dear brothers and sisters, silence in those moments is not emptiness. It is trust. It is placing your heart in the care of Allah. When you remain silent for the sake of Allah, you are saying without words, Ya Rabb, you know my intention. You know my truth. I do not need to defend myself because you are my defender. This kind of silence is not passive. It is deeply active. It is an act of worship rooted in yaqeen, certainty that Allah sees what people miss and hears what hearts cannot say. Our nafs loves to speak. It craves justification, recognition, and validation. It wants to correct every accusation and respond to every insult. But faith teaches us restraint. Faith teaches us that not every moment requires our voice. Sometimes Allah is testing whether we trust Him enough to remain quiet while He works on our behalf. Allah reminds us in the Quran that He is Al-Adl, the most just. When you choose silence, you are trusting His justice over your own words. You are trusting that what is written for you cannot be taken away by someone's misunderstanding, and what is not written for you cannot be earned by endless explanations. This trust frees the heart from anxiety. It allows the soul to rest. The Prophet was insulted, mocked, and rejected, yet he did not rush to defend himself. His silence was not because he lacked words, but because he was grounded in reliance upon Allah. He knew that honor comes from Allah alone. And when you internalize this truth, silence becomes a source of strength rather than pain. Silence also protects the heart from sin. Words spoken in anger often carry regret, They leave wounds that cannot be undone. When you remain silent, you are shielding your heart from falling into arrogance, backbiting, or cruelty. You are choosing the pleasure of Allah over the momentary relief of speaking. There is a deep spiritual maturity in knowing when to step back. When you are silent for Allah, you are allowing your heart to soften instead of harden. You are training your soul to respond with patience rather than impulse. And this training transforms you. It refines your character in ways arguments never could. Trusting Allah through silence does not mean you accept injustice or suppress truth. It means you choose wisdom over reaction. It means you recognize that Allah's timing is perfect, even when your heart feels restless. Sometimes Allah delays clarity not to harm you, but to elevate you. In silence, the heart turns inward. It begins to reflect. It asks deeper questions. Am I sincere? Am I pleasing Allah? Am I guarding my heart? These questions lead to growth. They lead to purification. They lead you closer to Allah. When you stay silent and place your trust in Allah, He replaces the noise inside you with calm. He grants you a dignity that no argument could ever give. And He writes rewards for your patience that you may never see in this world, but will find waiting for you in the next. So when your tongue feels heavy and your heart feels tested, remind yourself this silence is not loss. It is reliance. It is faith. It is choosing Allah, and that choice is never wasted. There comes a moment in a believer's life when Allah gently asks the heart to let go of something it has been holding on to for too long, the need to be seen, to be validated, to be approved by people. This letting go is not easy because the heart naturally seeks comfort in being understood. Yet, true peace begins the moment you realize that people's approval was never meant to carry the weight of your soul. When you chase people's approval, your heart becomes restless. You adjust your words, your actions, even your silence, just to be accepted. And slowly, without realizing it, your heart begins to feel heavy. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are placing your worth in hands that were never created to hold it. Allah did not design your heart to depend on people. He designed it to depend on Him. There is a deep freedom in releasing yourself from the prison of people's opinions. When you stop needing validation, your heart begins to breathe again. You are no longer exhausted by explaining yourself. You are no longer hurt by every misunderstanding. You are no longer shaken by every comment. This is not because people suddenly change, but because your heart has returned to its rightful place with Allah. Allah already knows who you are. He knows your intentions when no one else does. He knows the sacrifices you make in silence, the tears you wipe away when no one is watching, and the patience you carry in your heart. So why burden yourself with proving your sincerity to those who cannot see beyond appearances? The Prophet lived among people who misunderstood him, accused him, and rejected him. Yet his heart was never attached to their approval. His concern was always the pleasure of Allah. This is why he remained firm when others doubted him, gentle when others were harsh, and calm when others were emotional. His heart was anchored not in people but in Allah. When your heart seeks approval from people, it will rise and fall with their moods. One day you are praised, the next day you are criticized. One day you feel confident, the next day you feel broken. But when your heart seeks Allah's approval, it becomes steady. Because Allah does not change. His love is not conditional. His acceptance is not temporary. Letting go of people's approval does not mean becoming careless or cold. It means being sincere, without being dependent. It means doing good because Allah sees it, not because people applaud it. It means guarding your heart from unnecessary wounds. There is wisdom in keeping parts of your journey hidden. Not everyone needs to understand you. Not everyone deserves access to your heart. Allah sometimes allows you to be misunderstood so that your heart detaches from creation and attaches more deeply to the Creator. When you release the need to be validated, Allah replaces it with inner strength. He fills your heart with contentment. You no longer feel the urge to explain yourself to everyone because you trust that Allah is enough as a witness. And this is where peace lives, in knowing that even if the whole world misunderstands you, Allah never does. Even if people turn away, Allah remains close. Even if no one applauds you, Allah records every intention. So protect your heart, free it from the burden of people's approval, anchor it in Allah alone. Because the heart that belongs to Allah will never be broken by people. There are moments when the heart is calm, and there are moments when emotions rise like waves, demanding an immediate response. In those moments, the real struggle is not with people, but within ourselves. It is the struggle against the nafs, the part of us that wants to react, to defend, to speak out of anger, and to release the fire burning inside the chest. The nafs thrives on impulse. It seeks relief, not wisdom. It convinces you that speaking now will make you feel better, that reacting will restore your dignity, that anger will protect your honor. But more often than not, it leaves behind regret. Words spoken in anger carry a weight that cannot be undone. They break trust, damage hearts, and linger long after the moment has passed. Islam teaches us something far greater than emotional release. It teaches us emotional discipline. The Prophet reminded us that true strength is not in overpowering others, but in controlling oneself when anger rises. This control is not suppression, it is mastery. It is the ability to pause when the nafs screams to act. When you hold yourself back for the sake of Allah, you are training your soul. Each time you restrain your anger, you weaken the grip of the nafs and strengthen your iman. You are choosing Allah over impulse, patience over reaction, and wisdom over momentary satisfaction. Anger clouds the heart. It narrows perspective and blinds the soul to consequences. Silence, on the other hand, creates space to reflect, to breathe, to remember Allah. In that pause, the heart often realizes that not every word needs to be spoken, and not every feeling needs to be acted upon. Controlling the nafs does not mean denying emotion. It means acknowledging what you feel without allowing it to control you. You can feel hurt without hurting others. You can feel anger without letting it define your response. This balance is the essence of spiritual maturity. The companions of the Prophet understood this deeply. They knew that victory over the self was greater than victory over others. They feared the damage of an unguarded tongue more than the harm of an enemy's words. Because the tongue reveals what the heart carries, and the heart must be protected. When you restrain yourself in moments of anger, Allah replaces that struggle with reward. Every moment of patience is written. Every breath you take to calm yourself is noticed. Every word you choose not to say is counted as an act of obedience. Over time, this practice softens the heart. It creates inner strength. You become less reactive, more grounded, and more aware of Allah's presence in your life. The nafs slowly learns that it does not lead, it follows. And in this discipline, you discover something beautiful. Peace does not come from expressing everything you feel. It comes from knowing when to remain silent, when to step back, and when to trust Allah with what your heart cannot carry alone. There is a quiet journey that every believer must take, a journey inward, a journey that does not begin by fixing others, but by standing honestly before Allah and looking into one's own heart. This turning inward is not self-obsession. It is self-purification. And without it, growth remains shallow and faith remains fragile. We often become distracted by the faults of others. We notice their mistakes, their words, their behavior. And while we are busy observing them, we forget the state of our own hearts. Islam gently redirects us back to ourselves, not so we become harsh or self-critical, but so we become sincere and aware. When you turn inward, you begin to ask the questions that truly matter. Is my heart soft or hardened? Is my prayer rushed or present? Is my patience growing or weakening? These questions are uncomfortable, but they are necessary, because transformation does not begin with changing circumstances. It begins with changing the heart. Allah is not asking for perfection. He is asking for effort and honesty. He is asking you to recognize your weaknesses and bring them to Him. When you focus on self-purification, you stop wasting energy comparing your journey to others. You understand that each heart has its own struggles, its own timeline, and its own tests. This inward focus creates humility. You become less judgmental because you are aware of your own shortcomings. You become gentler with people because you know how much you yourself need Allah's mercy. And this humility draws you closer to Allah because He loves hearts that are aware of their need for Him. The scholars of the past would say that the one who is busy correcting their own soul has no time to expose the faults of others. This is not indifference. It is wisdom. It is choosing growth over distraction. Self-purification also brings clarity. You begin to recognize what drains your heart and what nourishes it. You become intentional with your time, your words, and your company. You protect your prayer. You guard your tongue. You nurture your connection with the Quran. Slowly, without noise or applause, your heart begins to heal. This kind of growth is quiet. People may not notice it. There may be no visible change on the outside. But inside, the heart is becoming stronger, calmer, and more anchored in Allah. And that is the most meaningful transformation of all. When you turn inward for the sake of Allah, He meets you with guidance. He opens doors within your heart that you did not know were closed. He replaces confusion with clarity and restlessness with peace. True growth is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It happens in silence, in reflection, in sincere moments between you and Allah. And the heart that commits to this journey will find that Allah was always closer than it imagined. There comes a point in the believer's journey when the heart realizes that nothing in this world is truly stable. People change, situations shift, strength fades. And in that realization, Allah invites the heart to lean fully on Him. This is where reliance upon Allah becomes not just a concept, but a lived experience. We often search for peace in what we can control: people, plans, outcomes. And when those things fail us, the heart feels anxious and unsettled. But Allah teaches us that true peace is not found in control. It is found in surrender. When you rely on Allah, you are not giving up. You are placing your trust in the one who sees what you cannot. Reliance upon Allah begins in the heart. It is the quiet certainty that whatever reaches you was never meant to miss you, and whatever misses you was never meant to reach you. This certainty softens the heart. It removes the constant fear of what if and replaces it with calm acceptance. The heart that truly relies on Allah stops panicking over outcomes. It continues to make effort, to pray, to strive, but it no longer carries the burden of results. That burden belongs to Allah. And when the heart is freed from it, peace settles in. Even in moments of loss or disappointment, reliance upon Allah brings comfort. You may not understand why something happened, but you trust that Allah's wisdom is greater than your understanding. This trust does not erase pain, but it prevents despair. The Prophet showed us this reliance in the hardest moments of his life, in fear, in loss, in uncertainty. His heart remained anchored because his trust was complete. He taught us that hearts find rest only when they depend on Allah alone. When you rely on Allah, you stop chasing reassurance from people. You stop fearing their reactions. You stop measuring your worth by their response. Your heart becomes steady because it is attached to the one who never abandons. Peace through reliance is not instant. It grows slowly with every prayer whispered, every tear shed in dua, and every moment you choose trust over panic. And with time, you begin to feel it, a calm that does not come from circumstances, but from certainty. This is the peace Allah promises, a peace that lives in the heart that knows its Lord, a peace that remains even when the world feels unstable, a peace that comes from relying on Allah alone and finding Him more than enough.